Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A pleasure to have you here with us in London for the Film Festival. If you could begin with a brief introduction, what can people expect from unicorns?
What can you expect? Okay, well, I'm James Krishna Floyd. I wrote and I co-directed Unicorns. What can we expect? Wow. I hope the whole spectrum of emotions, really. The film is colourful, it's wild, it's fun, it's very dramatic, it can be quite sad, it can be fast, it can be slow, it can be cinematic. It can be all about human beings. It's all of these things. I hope that people who watch it, can go through the whole gamut. Yeah.
Tell us a bit about the genesis of the project, where did the idea come from, and also working with Sally.
Yeah.
Saw her, The Swimmers,
Yeah.
Last festival.
Yeah. It was the last one. Yeah.
What's it like working with her?
Yeah. So yeah, I've worked with Sally twice before this as an actor. I starred in her first film, My Brother the Devil, which played here, and then I was also in The Swimmers, which played here too. But I was sort of thinking about doing my filmmaking debut around 7 years ago, like really seriously. And Sally and I have always wanted to co-direct together. We love working together generally. And I basically written this script and come up with this idea and this movie. It was very personal to me, and it explored this idea of fluid identity and this notion that mainstream culture is very good at pinning labels on us that are very reductive, whether it be with gender or sexuality or race, all these things. And that's something that Sally can really relate to as well. So she came on board as a co-director fairly late, but it was a very seamless process. And what we try and do is whenever we have a project, we kind of talk to each other and we go, well, what can each of us bring individually? And that might be nothing, we don't know, but we try and let the project sort of dictate to us what our roles need to be or not. And with this one, it became very clear that it was best that I wrote it, I co-directed it, Sally and I didn't act in it. And hopefully there'll be more projects that we can do together in the future.
And tell us about your cast. How did you decide who was going to be in it, and how did you work with them?
Yeah, so Ben Hardy, who plays one of the lead roles, he plays this single dad who's a mechanic from Essex. Ben, I've known his work for a while. Pure coincidence, but we both have the same acting agents in the UK and the US, so we'd known about each other. And I thought of Ben very early on for this role. He has this amazing quality that's very hard to find, I think, in actors, where he's playing a character who on the surface is very simple and really has this sort of truthful Tourette. He's always emotionally honest. But underneath, he's very complex, and that's something that's very hard to play without making it dull. And his performance is absolutely electric, and don't take it from me, take it from all the critics so far. It's really incredible. And so once we had Ben locked in, that was a big relief. And then we had to find our unicorn, which is Aisha Ashik, who is this incredible British Indian realism drag queen, who really is two characters in one. In one sense, you have Ashik, who is this in the closet queer South Asian man, and then by night, Ashik is Aisha, who is this incredibly colourful, charismatic peacock of a human being who performs at these Gaysian nightclubs and is this sort of fluid, identityless femme unicorn. So to find that was very, very hard. We were kind of scared, to be honest, that if we didn't find our real-life unicorn, that we wouldn't have a film. And then this young actor called Jason Patel walked in, and he was introduced to us by our wonderful casting director, Laura Windows. And Jason is a real-life unicorn. He's an out queer South Asian performer, a wonderful singer and dancer, as he does in the film. And Jason is just like the character. He doesn't live his life by any labels at all. He's not his hashtags, he is his actions, all these sort of things. And he's also actually a trained actor. He went to Rose Bruford. And then we had to put Jason in a room with Ben. As with any romance, the only thing that's important is chemistry. And it was instant. Like as soon as they started interacting on camera, me and Sally literally one looked at each other, we're like, we have our movie. And that was it really. So there's a little bit of luck there, but I think a lot of it is to do with Laura Windows, our fantastic casting director. But it's also, I think, it's where the world is, I think the existence of Jason Patel shows that I think there's now a new generation coming through that, are very bold with the way they look at identity. And they don't really care, they don't give a F. but also some of them are performers and actors. Whereas I think maybe 5 years ago it would be a lot harder to find an actor like that, and you probably would have to go slightly more street casting sort of way.
And on the shoot, what were some of the biggest challenges and also some of the highlights? I mean, I guess once you've got an amazing cast and chemistry in place, that's kind of
It does
some of
help.
the job done,
It
but
does help.
you might have still encountered issues along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like with any film with this budget, you're always limited on resources. So, you're trying to squeeze that schedule for what it's worth. Yeah, I think some of the hardest was, I would say we were trying to shoot a lot in a very short period of time. And, we wanted to make this film very, very cinematic with the sound, with the editing, with the cinematography. And to do that on the kind of budget and the time we had was pretty insane. But yeah, just work long hours, and certainly myself and Sally in particular, there was no breaks. We were going home and talking about the script and talking about the shots for next day. It's making a movie is like being in a cult. That's really what. And as the directors, you're the cult leader. It really is like that. It's a lifestyle. It's not like a job. And it's a very intense burst. Yeah, no, it's true. Actually, making a film is a bit like being in a cult, because you're in a very intense, claustrophobic environment, and as a director, you have to shepherd all of these people and keep them happy, give them a lot of fake news. No, I'm joking. And but it really is, and I think that there's an intensity to that, and I think it's not a normal job. Like what you're doing is a lifestyle, so it's never easy, and in particular when you don't have a lot of resources and a lot of time. It's always going to be tough. But honestly, I genuinely feel like 9 times out of 10, if you're making a film and you're really happy and it's really easy on set, it probably won't be any good.
And finally, what do you hope that people will take away from watching it? And I do think we are in an interesting moment where it does feel like, okay, yeah, there's progress been made in terms of moving beyond one idea of masculinity, or progress we've made on people being accepted and being able to embrace our identity. But it can also feel like we're in a slightly toxic atmosphere at the same time. So kind of one step forward, 2 steps back. So a film like this can be really important in just reminding us of these things and the need to be open.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably true. I think in some small way, films contribute to where mainstream culture can go. I don't think it can completely change pop culture, but I think it can certainly present questions. I hope in some way this film can really push this notion that, do identity labels really exist? And if they do exist, do they even matter? Because I do think we're living in a world right now where everyone is doubling down on their hashtags. And, you talked about masculinity. Like, that's the reason why Andrew Tate and others even exist, is that you have a lot of these young, angry men who have kind of unfettered testosterone who need to grab onto something for an identity. But maybe the best thing is to not have an identity and just to be you and be kind. I think that's something that is very relevant now, and I hope in some ways quite timeless. But all these things, ultimately, human beings, we're not tins of food, like you can't categorize human beings in that sense. We're constantly changing, and over a long period of time, we hopefully evolve. So that's what the film kind of touches upon, really. But we're not here to provide any answers. It's just we're trying to explore these notions and sort of provide questions, rather than saying, this is the way things are.
And do you think also sometimes South Asian communities and characters can feel a bit typecast and even just blowing beyond, like what we're used to seeing in cinema in that respect?
Absolutely, and not just South Asian community. I think any community that's perceived to be a minority, and is a minority in that case, I think, get boxed in even more. The truth is, all of us do. Even the most mainstream people in this world get, if you meet someone who's a white, straight, heteronormative, middle-class, middle-aged male, immediately you have a perception of what that person could be. They might not be what you think, in the same sense of the opposite. So I think it's the same for all groups of human beings, but we are how we feel, and we are our actions. We're not what we tweet or what our identity label is. It's just not, in my opinion, it's not as important as we think it is.
And just quickly, very finally, what does it mean to you to have the film here at London Film Festival?
It means everything, because this is a London set film, and I think there are only a few cities in the world that this story could happen, and one of them is London, because it's so cosmopolitan, and London is a very fluid place, and it really touches upon this idea that identity can be whatever you want it to be, and that's exactly what the film is about.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all that with
That's
me.
all right.
And really enjoy the rest of the time here in
Thank you.
London.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.